clear non-tariff barrier. Thirdly, corporate capture. Corporate capture is when the sovereignty of a nation has been taken control of by the commercial interests of big industry. In this case, the selfish interests of multinationals that would go through lengths, and I dare say even to the extent of quid pro quo, in order to seize our food sovereignty, is not in doubt in this regime, and this regime stands as an accomplice. And therefore the burden of proving they are not is really on their side. Against the backdrop of this lift, the Ruto administration had met several delegations who have been aggressively lobbying for the lifting of the GMO ban in Kenya. We are also aware that these multinationals have sponsored skilled research on GMO biotechnology calculated to reach a desired outcome. We also take issue with the National Biosafety Authority, NBA, which is a body tasked with the responsibility to regulate genetically modified organisms in the country and ought to be neutral. Instead, we have noticed is concerned the way in which the regulator is one of the lead promoters of GMOs in Kenya. What is their motivation? We dare ask. As crusaders of moral practice, we are also surprised by the silence of the religious community, and specifically the church, which were once vibrant and vehemently against GMOs. Could it be that they have been pacified by this new administration and blinded to the moral and ethical question around GMOs that go against the order of nature? I call on the church to respond. We urge our religious leaders and faith-based organizations not to sell their soul, but to speak the truth at power at the altar of commercial interests and political expediency. The way forward, fellow Kenyans. Number one, Kenyans are heavy consumers of processed maize, and we produce an average of about 40 million bags of maize a year, yet our demand is about 55 bags of maize a year. Our deficit, therefore, is approximately 10 to 15 million bags of maize a year. Food security, my second point, should not be premised on maize consumption alone. We speak to all of us as Kenyans. There are other varieties of organic food such as sorghum, millet. Some of us grew on millet. I can tell you, your only competitors are the birds. Sweet potatoes, cassava, etc. that can complement or substitute shortage of maize diet. Kenyans ought to be sensitized on the need to diversify their eating culture and be able to demonopolize their dependency on a few staples like maize and rice. Point number three, the low cost of BT maize is as a result of highly subsidized farm implements and sophisticated mechanized agricultural practices in the first world. Even if our farmers adopt the BT maize seed, this will not bring down the cost of maize, since the price is artificially manipulated by the profit-oriented multinationals. The government can plug this deficit. We dare offer this advice by supporting our farmers to produce more through better extension services, better inputs, climate resilient, and agroecological practices, be able to reduce post-harvest losses, and trade with our non-GM neighbors rather than resorting to the importation of risky GMO maize. Point number four, I'm now at page 5. I told you there are 6 pages. Science has shown gray areas as far as the safety of consumption of GMOs is concerned. This poses a grave challenge to already emaciated healthcare system in the long term. The dependence of GMOs on toxic herbicides is a threat to human health and the environment. The rush, therefore, to introduce GMO is alarming when the able in society, as well as many developed countries, are going organic. In fact, you go to any supermarket in Europe and you want to buy GMO food, the shop owners will tell you this is GMO, this is organic. And the organic food is more expensive than the GMO. This is the reality. We therefore must remain organic and avoid acceleration of food-related diseases such as cancer. Point number 5. Due to patents, our food system will be at the mercy of the multinational companies which own GMO technology, while our indigenous seeds and unique biodiversity will be facing extinction owing to the poor regulatory framework on GMOs in Kenya. In addition, Kenya fails to provide mechanisms for liability and redress in the event of possible harmful effects arising from the consumption and use of GMOs, or compensation for our farmers in case of contamination of the indigenous crops. We therefore direct National Biodiversity Authority as part of its mandate to ensure that these safeguards and redress mechanisms are in place. It's indeed their duty to make sure they are. Our point number 6, on such a weighty matter, especially as concerns food and food security, there should have been nationwide discourse through public engagement, education, and participation. The government did not engage in public participation, and we shall therefore be progressing this conversation to the National Assembly and to the Senate. We urge our leaders to take this challenge. Point number 7. The church and religious institutions need to add their voice to that of the civil society in condemning introduction of genetically modified food crops and pesticides in Kenya. Although it was 6-page, it's an important matter. It's actually a matter of life and death. Not political at all. Absolutely not. But this is our life. Fellow Kenyans, in conclusion, the long-term effects of GMOs in Kenya outweigh the short-term benefits, if indeed there are any. Reverting after opening our doors to GMOs will be a Herculean task. I therefore urge each and every one of us to take time and research into the truths that I've shared with you this afternoon. We must safeguard the safety of our future generations and protect our sovereignty at all costs from manipulation and penetration by foreign entities. End of the statement. Nawashukuruni sana. Kana kuna mwenye swali, aulize. Hapa niko na ndugu wa mwenyenye mrefu kweli. Anaweza akajibu maswali yaliyo marefu. Sorry? Whistling African. You are Whistling African. Wow. Okay. Okay, Bwana Firimbi. Yeah. What prohibits? So Parliament is also an accomplice. It prohibits them from sharing information. Or indigenous seeds. How can actually Parliament acting? And the fine of 1 million shillings fine. Kupeana ile mbegu ile ya zamani ingine tulikuwa tunaanzeka juu kwa nyumba. I think that must have been a serious oversight on the part of Parliament. It's not related. Yes. But I think an amendment to that legislation would be an important matter to consider. Because how do you find mwananchi amepeana mbegu kwa mwenzake, alafu unamtoa fine ya 1 million? Excessive. Another question. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, for loving.
Yes, citizen.
What solution are you offering in regards to food scarcity and in regards to drought resistance crops in the country in the wake of global warming? So what are some of the solutions?
You know, nakushukuru sana. I'm not able to offer a comprehensive solution. But we have lived in this country long enough to know there are sometimes cyclical issues about drought. The management of drought, for example, we have the National Drought Management Authority, which I happen to know is trying a lot to see whether they can work, and we had the Deputy President called the stakeholders. That was a positive thing, to see how to deal with the matter of drought. But we must also come alive to the fact that the reality of climate change is perhaps even harsher now than ever before. I can tell you I was Minister for Environment one time, and my assistant was the late Professor Wangari Maathai, who remember won the Nobel Peace on the matter of environment. In fact, he used to use this example of the hummingbird, which would rush and carry some water in the leaves to do something. At least she was able to do something. The matter of the Shamba system was introduced when I was Minister for Environment. We dropped it like a hot potato. So you can imagine, if you're going to do Shamba system in Mao, the first casualty will be Mao River. And the next thing is the world wonder we call the world every annual event, the world beast migration will be a thing of the past. What are we doing to our children and our children's children? All because we need to catch up with some lost time in terms of raising and necessary funding, perhaps to pocket people's private pockets. So this is a hot issue. That's why we are suggesting, it's a very hot issue, we are suggesting consultation, and the mechanism under the Constitution 2010 on public participation is very well established now, from the national government level to the county governments as well. We cannot rely forever on our development partners. We must take a hold of the destiny of our nation. Maybe ya pili ya mwisho. Yes, sir. One of the leaders, Sam, is here, the deputy leader. And this time we are not able to see deputy minority because we are going to court, yeah, to go against that ruling of my friend, Weta. He's still my friend, even if it occasions disharmony in the country. He knows it. Yeah, so we are ruling against that. I mean, you don't do those things. You don't. He's also a learned friend. You don't do certain things because future generations will look up. You remember today, Marenda is a household name because what they used to say, Solomonic wisdom. So a ruling he made, which actually affected me as a leader of government business. But we had to abide. So, ndugu Weta, tafadhali, usikubali manipulation. We ni ndugu yangu, tulikuta tear gas pamoja. Usisahau ndugu yako mwenzako, ambaye bado ako kwa madaki. We must stand for what is truthful and just in this country. Kwa hivyo tuenda kwa bunge na kwa senate vile vile. The senators wako hapa. I don't know whether Wambua is here, another deputy leader. Dan Maanzo is here and the others. We mean business to save ourselves. You know, as I say, this is not about politics. And I was there with President Kibaki. And there was a presentation to allow this thing, and we all unanimously as cabinet say, no. May Mzee Kibaki continue to rest in peace. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Nicholas Delay from
HMG. Thank you.
Good. I hear you speak, and someone would wonder as Kenyans that do you fear the problem of businesses dying or people dying of hunger out of GMO? And then the next question is, we have Kenya Seed, for instance, which deals with maize. We have
GMO doesn't stop hunger.
That deals with.
Are you saying GMO will stop hunger? Hata Pope mwenyewe, muulize Papa Mtakatifu.
Allow me to finish this.
And he's a leader in these matters. Yes, sir.
So my next question is, does it mean now approval of this GMO will not give an opportunity to institutions like Kenya Seed to transform and produce seeds?
They will not transform, my friend. They will die off. Kenya Seed and the others. They can't match the level of competition by these multinationals. And I don't want to name names. We know them. They will die off. In fact, they will be clamped with heavy legal costs on infringement of intellectual property. They will die off. Let's wake up and think about this. Nawashukuruni sana. Mtu wa mwisho, mnisaidie mimi sio mwenye everything. Hii mambo ya GMO kwanza nimea study. Yes sir. Of course we must do irrigation. I hear from Dan Mahanzo. And I am a believer in serious irrigation now. In Kitui County, we started a huge project called the Wiki Wiki Irrigation Scheme. I want to take a team of senators, if they can manage, to go and see. Unless we move away from this rain-fed agriculture, we will not be able to feed ourselves. Na vile tumeongezeka jameni, tuko wengi. Yes, Maina. Yes.
Now, my question is very straightforward. If I get from you, are you saying no for GMOs?
Yes.
You are saying why the concentration?
I'm saying no.
No.
Big letter.
A big no. Until everybody is satisfied. So if you allow that public participation, maybe people will come and convince me. When you convince, then I can say no. But science, and it is all a matter of science, and science is what you are following. Science does not lie. Research, if science may quote a famous French scientist who was able to guide our decision as a cabinet in 2012. Kwa hivyo, science, but also, I'm shocked. You know, I'm really shocked. Kenyans know I'm a believer. They do know. So I'm actually alarmed. I'm calling the believer community, tafadhalini. Yani mumenyamaza mpaka sasa hakuna yeyote. There may be the remnant of the church will stand up and speak. Yeah. Yes, sir. Apollo. Yes, sir. We should have gone to the stars or the moon. I have not seen the clip where the president as Minister for Agriculture then was as vehemently opposed to GMO as I am. I think he probably had not looked at this. And I'm calling on William to also reconsider for the sake of this country. A leader is one who say, now, I'm properly guided, or let's discuss. But to lift the ban, and then you go to Tanzania the following day, alafu nasema haya mahindi yetu yampati, njaa inazidi. Are we only going to be relying on kitunguu from Loitoktok ambayo inatoka upande wa Tanzania? Even kitunguu may be GMO. I mean BT common. What is it? BT cotton. Perhaps could be a reasonable something. I don't know. Because we have to really regrow our cotton and our cotton industry. But whether the GMO way, I'm not clear. Yeah. But at the moment, unequivocally, no. I told you this first of all, because if you are a minority or majority, then that influences the number in the committees. Si ndio? And this is a matter ambayo nimezungumza kwamba sisi wenyewe tuko kwa mahakama. In the meantime, we have given instructions to our leadership in the House to remain seized with this matter. And I know they are. That's why Robert Mbui is going there and others. Yeah. I used to be the chair of the House Business Committee. So I know. Sorry? So it's 50-50. So that's not an issue. I think Robert can tell you that. So that's not an issue. The House Business Committee will be set up today. And we wish them well. And Godspeed. To be able to lead the country in this discussion. Tunaangamia zote tukiona bana. Hey, some people who are religious fundamentalists were hard to say, Yesu tafadhali. Usitumane kuja wakati huu. Yani maajabu haya, watu wameumia. Hakuje haraka jameni. Tusipo kabla ya kuangamia. Unasikia my friend from CAS? I know my friends in CAS in London. Anybody else? Final. I think that we addressed this matter in our previous communication. And we said, you know, this is a country that has come of age in terms of our democratic practice. So if there is proper vetting of some of these cabinet appointees, in fact, since that time happened, I think one of them had some assault cases dropped against them. Maybe that's not good enough. Maybe too little, too late. I want to urge our members of parliament, the appointments committee, is it also being set up today?
Yes.
The appointments committee must take this matter very seriously. And I want to ask EAC and other governance institutions to really prove the what the Kenyan taxpayer has put on their table. Yeah, if there are people in the history, some of them have been governors, some of them have been whatever, and in the history, the charges that are supposed to be leveled against them. And I want to ask the DPP as well to cooperate in these matters. We know people at the highest level who got their cases dropped, but the files are still there, and they are subject to this vetting. So Kenyans, but without being unnecessarily abrasive or being punitive in any manner, let us follow Constitution 2010. And those committees of parliament, I want to talk to them now. We know the moment you have set up these committees, these candidates will come with big envelopes. They will come with big envelopes to bribe you. If you accept any of them, heaven will take after your case. Because you know this is, that's it, now defeating the purpose of Constitution 2010, the letter and the spirit of the Constitution. Candidates clearly should be in jail, and then you bribe them, they bribe you and you give them those appointments. I like to think maybe President Ruto wanted to wash his hands of some of them. Nimepeleka majina yenu, sio mimi nilikataa. If that happens, he will actually get credit himself. Thank you so much.